The following is from the November 2006 issue of the AA Grapevine, the International Journal of Alcoholics Anonymous.
How the Universe Works. A false alarm brought real help.
It all started somewhere in the middle 1950s in a small town in southern New Hampshire, population 4,500. Everyone pretty much knew everyone else's business. If things were not right, people might be concerned, but would look the other way. What goes on in this house stays in this house, was the operative saying around town. My father was well-liked and involved in the drinking community. When someone had a project and needed help, Henry was there. Of course, there was always a case or two of beer involved. My dad had 3 jobs, and was very busy impressing his friends with how successful he was. We had the first television set and the first riding lawnmower in town. There was always a new car in the driveway. At Christmas, we always received the award for the most lights on our house. Unfortunately, he was never home for us kids. That left Mom doing the best she could. As a kid, I spent many Sunday mornings with my friends instead of being in church. I learned how to lie early on, and thought it was okay because that is what my dad did. It was a lot more fun being with my friends anyway. At that time, Mass was said in Latin, and even though I was an altar boy, I didn't have a clue what I was saying. God was always there, but just not speaking my language. Things went on that way for a long time. One Friday, however, something happened that changed our family forever. That evening, I was going to the movies with my best friend. I was waiting for my dad to come home. He was late. My friend called and said his own father was also late because there had been a terrible accident on the road. Someone had died, he said. His father had seen the body covered up. I was alone in the living room. I looked out of the window and prayed. Please, God, don't let that be my dad who died. A few minutes later, a police car pulled into the driveway, and I knew my prayers had been ignored. God didn't love me. I remember looking up and saying, F you! In an instant, my relationship with God disappeared for the next 30 years. The police and the local priest came into the kitchen and told my mom and the 3 other kids what had happened. Everyone was crying. I came in and joined them. The priest told me I was now the head of the family, and my mother would be looking to me for strength. I was 12 at the time, and in that moment I shut off all feelings. No God, no feelings, alone. But I had to be strong for everybody else. We somehow got through that time, but Mom started drinking at home more and more. Things got bad very quickly. On New Year's Eve of that year, I tried my first drink. I was babysitting with a friend, and we had a few drinks from the bar. It tasted terrible, but I liked the feeling. The shy introvert I had been was transformed into the taller, better-looking, outgoing guy I always wanted to be. My friend and I began dancing in the kitchen, singing along with Elvis. What a secret my parents had been keeping from me all these years. I would have done this much earlier, had I only known. Although I wasn't able to get liquor as often as I would have liked, I managed once in a while on weekends. I joined the Air Force after high school to avoid the Army, as Vietnam was going strong at the time. The Air Force didn't care what I did after work, so I spent a lot of time in the enlisted men's club. I drank daily for another 22 years. Like most of us, I had lots of little encounters, which I know now were signposts along the way. One DWI and a few arrests led to what I hope was my final drunk. This is the one I never want to forget. I was drinking in the VFW club across the street from my apartment one Saturday. Morning drinking was very common by this time, and sometime late in the evening, after drinking all day, I was involved in a pushing match with a Spanish fellow over his refusal to speak English. Well, my gun came out, and I threatened him and his family. Lucky for us both, The bouncer was close by and jumped in, taking away the gun. I was taken outside, beaten up, and left unconscious in the parking lot. My next recollection was the phone ringing as I lay on the couch in my apartment. It was the local police, and a woman was asking, "Where did you put the bomb in the VFW?" Someone had called 911 from my phone and said he was me. I looked around the apartment and could not find any evidence that someone had broken in and made the call while I was passed out. I told the police that whoever made the call must have left without a trace, but assured them I would continue to search. To this day, I don't remember making that call, but I do remember feeling quite satisfied when I saw everyone standing outside the VFW club and all the police and fire trucks in the street. The next morning, the police arrived, and off to jail I went. I was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and false public alarm. I was terrified. After a short stay in jail, I made bail and proceeded to find a lawyer. The lawyer suggested I consider not drinking anymore and maybe attending AA. "It might help when we go to court if I can tell the judge that you have been sober for several months now," she said. So, I ended up at my first AA meeting. Drinking, of course. I didn't really listen too much, but I did hear one thing. Maybe you should go home, get down on your knees, and ask God for help. I did exactly that. I prayed right from the bottom of my soul. "Please, God, help me. I can't stop drinking." That was almost 20 years ago. I was able to plea bargain the charges, and they were removed from my record after a year. Today, I continue to attend AA on a regular basis, sponsor several guys, have a home group, and have been involved in the business end of several clubs. Has life been smooth since I got sober? Heck no. Like most of us, I have made a number of bad decisions while trudging the road. After 2 years, I thought getting married would help me to feel better about myself. That only lasted 52 days. She ended up in a psychiatric ward, and I sat on my couch with a loaded gun. But I didn't drink. At 4 years, I was let go from the company I had been at for 22 years. I didn't drink. At 6 years, my alcoholic girlfriend refused to move out of my house and got a restraining order. I moved out. She died of cancer 2 years later, and I didn't drink. At 8 years, I opened a recovery bookstore and thought I could save the world. I lost everything within 3 years, but I did get to read a lot of books, and I didn't drink. I have been fired from a very good job, laid off from another, taken a job at a lesser salary, and I didn't drink. You see, between God and AA, I can get through any situation as long as I don't pick up that first drink. I've spent the past 20 years changing the way I think about myself. I am a student of life, just trying to learn how the universe works. The most powerful lesson I have learned is that it all happens inside me. My perception of any situation is in my control. I have a choice about which way my mind will react. I try my best to look for positive solutions. I take my problems to my sponsor, or I let my friends at a meeting know what is going on inside me. One day at a time. With God's guidance, I plan to never drink again. I must always remember, however, that the monkey may be off my back, but the circus has not left town, and it never will for this alcoholic. John L., Pinellas Park, Florida.